Some big changes happening across really all of our school districts in recent years, with bond projects going through, improvements being made to our school facilities, and even some schools being shuffled around. That's certainly the case in the Bloomfield Hills School District, where that plan really kicks into high gear this fall, moving some schools around and putting new projects in place. You can see that timeline. Here's where we're at. We're in the summer of 2023, about to go into September of 2023 with a new era in the Bloomfield Hills School District. Here to describe what's going on and where we're at in this bond project from all the way back in 2020 is Superintendent of the Bloomfield Hills School District, Patrick Watson. Pat, thank you for being with us today.
I appreciate it. Good morning, Tyler. How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks.
Hey, glad to have you on to talk about this 2020 bond plan. It's been several years already in the works, but now we're really getting to the big portion of this project where it starts to affect our classrooms and our schools, and those big changes for the future are going into effect this fall. But Pat, for those that aren't familiar with this bond plan and what exactly is going on in the Bloomfield Hills School District, give us a brief overview of these changes.
Sure. To say it's an exciting time would be a gross understatement. We're really excited for the fall, and there's some major shifts going on. One is a shift in returning to that K through 5, 6 through 8 configuration. And as part of that, we are closing 3 middle schools. We are closing what was formerly West Hills, East Hills, and Bloomfield Hills Middle School. We are opening 2 new middle schools. One will be South Hills Middle School, which is located on what was formerly Bloomfield Hills Middle School, and then North Hills Middle School, which was formerly Lasser High School. And the majority of that building is going to be brand new. We're also moving 2 of our elementary buildings. So Lone Pine, which has served the students on the West End for a long time, those students will be moving over to West Hills Middle School, which will be called Lone Pine Elementary at that time. The space is going to be amazing. They're going from a small type building without a cafeteria to a large building, more instructional space, a full gym, a full field house. So these additional amenities will be great. And then we're moving what was formerly Eastover Elementary School on the east end. That will be moving to East Hills Middle School, and it'll be Eastover there. Same type of amenities, same type of room. And so we're really excited. Construction's going well. And I think it's important to remember, I know personally, having gone through multiple bonds over the years, when we get into buildings, we expect to have occupancy and be ready to go day one. But typically what happens, you have a punch list of things to do until December, right? Oh, this molding needs to be replaced. This cabinet's not shutting properly. We need to reconfigure some wires over here. So a lot of those odds and ends that need to be tied up at the end, I think parents should expect that. That's normal. We're also going with flexible furniture in our buildings, which will help shift our instructional practices. All of our buildings, K through 8, will also now have like a STEAM area for students to have those experiential hands-on experiences. So at the middle school, it will be Project Lead the Way, where they're doing a lot of critical thinking, a lot of teamwork, a lot of problem solving, all skills that we're hearing from the workforce that, when they hire someone, they're happy to train them. But what they really need is to be able to present that new hire with like, here's a problem, come back in a week with 3 solutions, and not have the person repeat back to them, well, what do you want it to be? Where do I start? What should it look like? Those are all things that they expect that their new employee is going to be able to do. And so that shift is going to be beneficial as well. We've also changed the schedule to middle school so that there's opportunity to have more instructional time in math and ELA. We feel that will be very important. We've also heavily invested in the arts. So our 2 new middle schools have state-of-the-art choir room, orchestra room, and band rooms that will not be, rivaled by any other middle school in the state of Michigan at this point. So really excited for what the buildings are going to look like in the fall. I know if you're driving by, especially where South Hills is, it can be a little concerning seeing where it's at, but this is all typical for this time of year and where we should be in construction.
And it's all about bringing the school district really into more of a modern layout and modern facilities too. Many of these buildings are several decades old and have not been updated very much throughout that time, maybe occasionally over the course of those decades. And that's really what's at the crux of this, Pat, is rearranging the alignment of the school district, but also modernizing these buildings. And so in doing that, how was that discussed within the school district as they're planning for this bond, certainly after the bond had passed, to execute that and really bring the Bloomfield Hills School District not just into 2023 in terms of facilities and programs, but even looking deeper into the future, hoping this bond lasts for several decades too?
Well, first and foremost, we want to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, right? So that fiscal responsibility paid a piece. And then we also didn't want to start from scratch. We had quite a few assets. Yes, some of the buildings were outdated, but the bones were still really good. So we wanted to use the sites we already had and not tear down and complete new. A great example of that is old Losser High School. What was left standing was some of the office areas and other parts, and those parts were all saved. There was already a pool that was in Losser, and so rather than saying, let's move the pool to a different area, we're going to keep it right where it's at. Economically, that's the most viable option. And as part of that plan, we're also going to have the pool open for the community during the day. When our students from Wing Lake aren't using it. So there's some additional amenities that are going to be available to the community. Later on in the bond, there's upgrades at the Nature Center and Farm, which will benefit the community at large, not just our students. So it's really taking what we have and looking to make those improvements as best as possible, which is a little bit different. If you look around the state of Michigan, a lot of the bonds that were passed in the past 3 years are all new construction, complete tear down, complete rebuild. And we definitely did not want to go in that direction. Besides the time involved, the cost is substantially different than the bond we passed. We would have had to have asked for tens of $millions more if we wanted to start from scratch.
Joining us is Pat Watson, Superintendent of the Bloomfield Hills School District, joining us to talk about their Bond 2020 project, well underway. Many of these changes that we've been discussing already going into effect officially come the fall of this year. And the big question that comes along with that, with moving Lone Pine to the former West Hills Middle School facility, with rebuilding and renovating parts of the old Bloomfield Hills Middle School in the South Hills and so on and so forth throughout the district, is how does that affect where the students have been in their schools and where they're going to be? Is there going to be much of a change in those so-called catchment areas?
So we changed the catchment areas about 2 years ago. So that was part of balancing the school district as well, and making sure that we're able to staff each building appropriately and then provide as many opportunities instructionally, whether it's in the arts, whether it's in activities, academics, or athletics for all of our students. And that's one of the reasons we went back to that K through 5 configuration. We know instructionally it's going to help us move forward. And then from moving to Lone Pine, I don't know, Tyler, if you've ever been in Lone Pine, but when I first got here, it was really interesting to walk in. It was like walking into kindergarten in 1974 all over again, with the open classrooms. Like, oh, I remember this. I was little, and we had just got a color TV, and a long time ago is the point I'm trying to make, right? And so being able to move the students over to West Hills, where they're going to have a larger footprint. They're going to have a larger classroom so they can do more things and have more amenities in the classroom. When you think about elementary schools, you think about indoor recess when it's inclement weather. Typically, it's a little gym or it's in your classroom. They've got a full gym, a full field house to have indoor recess. There's so many more things that we can leverage being at West Hills, in all those 4 areas: arts, activities, athletics, and academics. And so we've really focused on those 4 A's and how we can move each one of those categories forward to best serve our students. My job at the end of the day, I'm ultimately responsible to the students and taking care of what they need. And so I'm excited for the community to come in and see these new spaces. More importantly, I'm excited for our students. I think they're going to love the new spaces. I think they're going to love their additional opportunities to learn and be engaged and get up and move and actually be part of the learning process, not just, sit and get, which is more traditional education that we've seen over the years.
And it's a great opportunity for the kids to be in a better facility, better suited for today, and have more space available to them and for the educators as well. And you mentioned Lone Pine as being one of those schools that really did need to be moved along and changed. I grew up in the Bloomfield Hills School District in West Bloomfield Township. I attended Lone Pine. I attended West Hills Middle School. So I have a very good understanding of those two buildings. And having been in Lone Pine several years ago, well after I had finished Elementary School. It was surprising to me. I didn't remember it being so tightly cramped, and think about kids being in that building today. It's not that it wouldn't be a good building for schools to happen in, but it's not a modernized school building. West Hills will be a great facility for that. In terms of those buildings that are going to be no longer be elementary schools, Eastover Elementary on the east side of the school district, Lone Pine on the west side of the school district. I know when schools close, the communities tend to have a concern about what's going to happen to those buildings, what's going to happen to that facility. So what is the plan, at least initially, and then into the future for Eastover and Lone Pine?
Right. So right away, when we passed the bond in 2020, we put together two different task forces, one for Lone Pine and Pine Lake and one for Eastover. So Eastover is going to become, we're going to move our students, our preschool students from Fox Hills over to Eastover. And Fox Hills is going to come offline. We've been talking to a couple different third parties about what we might do with that property. The community has made it crystal clear they would not like something to go in that drives additional traffic to their community. We also want to make sure we land bank it, because that's a great site for future elementary if the population were to grow on that side. As far as Lone Pine, has preschool students there as well. And we'll be looking at different opportunities for Lone Pine in the future. For example, Pine Lake, we just signed a partnership with West Bloomfield Parks. They're going to be taking over the operation of that. It's a great adventure. They're going to add all kinds of different amenities to Pine Lake and make it part of the park program, which is going to be beneficial. We have about 4 or 5 possibilities for Lone Pine. The district will continue to vet those in the next year or two to see which one of the options works best for the community and everyone involved. So it's to be determined a little bit at this point.
And Pat, lastly, you mentioned that there are going to be continued improvements after this year, after these current projects in the school buildings proper are completed, including at the E.L. Johnson Nature Center, at the Powers School Farm. But beyond that, knowing that this timeline kind of stretches through the summer of 2025, what other changes can be expected or renovations over the next several years as this bond project comes to a close? So
the big lift has been the reconfiguration. So that's going to be done after next summer. So, for example, next summer, use Conan as an example. Some of the loose ends with flooring and lighting will be done during the summer, so we're not impacting students during the school year. Our students at Conan and what was formerly Bloomfield Hills Middle School kind of had to live through construction. So the majority of the bond, the majority of the spending, the majority of the lift within the reconfigurations the majority is done come August, September of this year. And so a lot of those little bits and pieces moving forward and some of those loose ends and then the Nature Center and Bowers Farm will be done on the way out. You'll see hopefully this fall or this winter, the Health and Wellness Center start to go up at the high school. Which will be an instructional space during the day and available to students after school as well. And I think that's going to be a difference maker for us at Bloomfield Hills High School and what we're able to offer our students in that space. So that's one of the last large pieces that will be coming starting this upcoming school year. Certainly plenty of changes coming, all of which will benefit certainly the students, also the educators, and even the community as well. More information can be found on bloomfield.org and just navigate to the bond page for the latest updates and information. Of course, I'd also encourage you to follow along on their Facebook page where the school district is consistently posting pictures of their latest updates at all of these facilities. Pat, thank you very much for joining us and for joining us at the time that we're doing this interview on your final day of your career, retiring after almost 30 years in education between the Bloomfield Hills School District and where we've seen you for a long time also in the West Bloomfield School District. Congratulations on a successful career. I appreciate it. Thanks, Tyler. Take care, my friend.